Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in-depth into my week number 10 quarterback start or sit decisions. Inside today's video, I'll be going in-depth into every single matchup from Thursday Night Football all the way until Monday Night Football, and I'll be telling you guys whether I think you should start or sit the quarterbacks in all of those games. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. Also, important note, if you have any questions about week 10, ask down below in the comment section. And there are 4 teams on bye this week: the Ravens, the Bengals, the Patriots, and the Jets. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 10. Crazy, it's already week 10. Quarterback start or sit decisions. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. PJ Walker will be the starting quarterback in this matchup, despite the fact that he was benched in the middle of that game last week for Baker Mayfield. Ultimately, PJ Walker does have some interesting aspects to him in terms of the fact that he could have DJ Moore have a solid game here, but at the end of the day, PJ Walker, the quarterback for fantasy football, is not ideal, so he is going to be a sit. Marcus Mariota is also listed as a sit in this matchup, but he's one of those guys that is a fringe sit, right? If you told me that you wanted to start Marcus Mariota over one of the guys that I've listed as a start, who's kind of a bottom of the barrel start, I wouldn't have too much of an argument with you. This matchup up against the Panthers does seem pretty solid, but we all know deep down that there is a lot of downsides with Marcus Mariota, especially with Cordero Patterson running extremely hot like he did last week. Ultimately, I think Marcus Mariota isn't the worst play, but in this spot, I'm going to sit him in a majority of situations. Next up, we move to Munich, Germany, with the Seattle Seahawks at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In this matchup, I like both Geno Smith and Tampa Bay Tom Brady. Now, playing Tom Brady every single week in fantasy football will make you pull your fucking hair out. It'll make your hair turn gray. But at the end of the day, this matchup up against the Seattle Seahawks is very, very solid. Now, I need to give the Seattle Seahawks defense some credit because they aren't complete and utter dick cheese like they were early on in the season. But at the end of the day, if this really is the new wave Bucks, if this is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that we're used to, like if this is the team that has thrown all that bullshit behind them and they're going to start playing well, then Tom Brady should have a fantastic performance here up against Seattle. But I will let it be known that I am nervous about this game because it appears every time these teams go overseas, the games end up being pretty low scoring. Geno Smith is also a start. This guy has been incredible this season. He's probably going to win Comeback Player of the Year, even though he didn't really come back from anything. Come back from being the backup for Russell Wilson. It is what it is, but Geno Smith has been nothing short of amazing. This week up against the Bucs defense, I think he is start worthy. Next up, we move to the Minnesota Vikings at the no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are dealing with a big injury to their quarterback, Josh Allen. It seems like the team wants us to think that he's playing, but he's not actually going to play. That's kind of my read on the situation. Like, hey, let's not officially say that he's going to be benched this week or for the next couple of weeks. Let's kind of dance around the question, say maybe he'll play, maybe he won't play, so that the Vikings can't prepare for Case Keenum. They have to prepare for Josh Allen. Maybe that's what they're doing. That's my thought process on things. Ultimately, I do not believe Josh Allen will be playing in this matchup. Mr. Kirk Cousins, you like that, of the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins dancing, hitting the put that shit on, the Antonio Brown dance on the plane ride home, just absolutely dripping with all of those chains on. It's very funny to see Kirk Cousins himself. It looks like he's having an incredible time. Now, normally, I would tell you that this is a big letdown spot for Kirk Cousins, right? This is an incredibly tough matchup, but this game is at 1 p.m. That's when Kirk Cousins is at his peak. Once it gets like 4 o'clock, it's like, oh no, should I bet on Kirk Cousins? And then once it hits like 8 o'clock, you know you're just absolutely butt-fucked if you start Kirk Cousins. But in this game, while I am a little bit nervous, I still think Kirk Cousins is start-worthy. If Case Keenum gets the nod, I think Stephon Diggs will be fine. But ultimately, Case Keenum is not a start-worthy quarterback in fantasy. Next up, we move to the Detroit Lions at the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields coming off an absolute heater of a game up against the Miami Dolphins. He absolutely dissected, like the science teacher, up our defense. And by our defense is if I'm on the Dolphins defense, okay? He bent us over the table and fucked us relentlessly without even the common courtesy of using lube or even spitting on it. He did us dirty. He raw dogged us, not silently into the night. It was aggressively loud, 50 Shades of Grey style. And now he faces what might be the worst defense in the NFL. I expect Justin Fields to continue on this heater that he's been on. Over the last 5 weeks, he's been great. The last 3 games have been nothing short of incredible up against the Lions defense. I love this spot for Justin Fields. It appears that Chase Claypool, while he's not going to be very fantasy relevant for the team, is a great addition for this team. Helps the other guys get open. Jared Goff is a start. The Bears defense succumbed to the Tua Tagovailoa takeover in that game. Tua had a really solid showing. Jared Goff hasn't been as good as he was early on in the season, where he was a must-start quarterback every single week. This matchup up against the Bears is definitely enticing, so I will be starting him here, but I'm not going to put him in must-start category, whereas Justin Fields honestly might be the #1 quarterback at the end of the week. Next up, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Kansas City Chiefs. In this spot, I like both Trevor Lawrence and Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, every single week, is a must-start quarterback. You don't even have to think twice about it. It does not matter if he's playing against the fucking 85 Bears defense or he's playing up against the Jaguars, whose defense has been very hit or miss this season. We've seen games where it's like, oh, wow, did they hop in the time machine back to a couple of years ago? And a couple of years ago, like fucking 6 years ago, when they're the Jacksonville Jaguars, when they were this great defense. And then there's other games where it's like, oh, the Jaguars are still the Jaguars, right? That defense looks putrid. I think Patrick Mahomes should have a really solid showing in this game. The team has a 30 implied point total on Vegas, meaning this is projected to be the highest scoring team on the slate. My biggest worry is that if the Jaguars aren't able to kind of keep up, then Mahomes will stop throwing the ball as much. But either way, if they're up by 1 million, it's probably because Mahomes laid his dick down on that defense. So I expect Patty Mahomes to be a must-start quarterback. Trevor Lawrence has been hit or miss. He's a lot like the defense. There's great games out of Lawrence. There's down games out of Lawrence. The Chiefs defense is pretty mid. Like, they're not awful to where I'm making fun of them, but they're also not great to where it's like, oh shit, you're playing up against the Chiefs defense. So you can start Lawrence. He's one of those iffy guys. Like, if you told me I wanted to start Marcus Mariota over Lawrence, I wouldn't necessarily argue with you. Next up, we got the Miami Dolphins going up against the Cleveland Browns in Miami. Tua Tagovailoa is cutting these defenses apart like his name is Jeffrey goddamn Dahmer. Tua Tagovailoa is on a fucking roll. This man is taking these defenses out back and shooting them in the back of the head like they're hunting for wabbits, and their name is Lenny from Of Mice and Men. I fully expect this to be a big game out of Tua. My only worry is that I think teams are going to start to realize that what they need to do to beat the Dolphins is what the Browns can actually do, which is run the ball aggressively, drip a lot of time off the clock, kind of like what the Bills try to do to the Dolphins. Dolphins beat them, and then, you know, you don't give Tua enough time to where you might just lose the game because Tua doesn't have enough time and the defense is just tired, right? That's kind of my thought process on what teams should do to beat the Dolphins. I know that wasn't the most X's and O's breakdown of it, but I hope you understood what I was saying. With that said, though, and with the fact that I feel like the Browns have the concoction of like the Powerpuff Girls when they put everything together, sugar, spice, and everything nice to potentially beat the Dolphins, ultimately, I feel like the Dolphins are going to win this game. I hope this is a pass-heavy game, because if Jacoby's having to throw into this game, a revenge game for Jacoby Myers, then Tua Tagovailoa could go fucking nuclear and be the #1 quarterback on the week. So I like Tua in this spot. Jacoby is a sit. Despite the fact that the Dolphins defense is so bad, Jacoby has not been the greatest as of recently. They really love to run the football there in Cleveland. Next up, we got the Houston Texans at the New York Football Giants. In this spot, I'm going to be starting Daniel Jones, despite the fact that they don't have a clear #1 wide receiver. Kenny Golladay, Kenny G-Spot might end up returning in this game, but at the end of the day, even with the limited weapons that Daniel Jones has, he is still going to destroy this Texans defense. The Texans defense ranks 32nd in rush DVOA. Daniel Jones can run the ball at a very solid rate. I think Daniel Jones dominates and eats the Houston Texans defense alive. His upside is capped by the wide receiver weapons, but his rushing upside does make him a start-worthy quarterback. Davis Mills, the only competition Davis Mills is winning is the longest neck competition. At the end of the day, you don't get points per inches on your fucking neck, and you also don't get points per inches on your cock. Otherwise, Nick Chubb would still be the running back 1 in fantasy football because he's 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. Davis Mills, send him down on the bench. Next up, we got the New Orleans Saints at the Pittsburgh Steelers. But before we break this game down, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over at DraftKings Sportsbook. They've been on your screen this whole entire video. I'm pointing at it right now. If you are a brand new user to DraftKings Sportsbook and you click on the link in the video description down below or in the pinned comment, again, got to be a new user, got to click that link, and you bet $5 on any sport pregame money line. You will win $200 in free bets if your bet wins on DraftKings Sportsbook. So since your bet has to win, I would suggest going with college football because those are the games where it's more likely that a huge favorite is going to win. Obviously, anyone could get upset. Upsets can happen, but in my opinion, the best bets for this, $5, again, just bet $5 on a pregame money line on Tennessee versus Missouri or Michigan versus Nebraska. I would be shocked if either of those teams lose. So make sure you check that out. Link down below in the video description. Make sure you take advantage of it now before it is too late and it disappears John Cena style. So the Saints versus the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. I feel like the Saints should be playing Jameis Winston at this point, but we haven't gotten any news towards Jameis being the guy, and it is incredibly tough because I feel like while Jameis isn't the best, he probably could have kept that game competitive against the Ravens. And I'm not trying to shit on Andy Dalton, but this guy is as boring as it gets to watch play football. The Steelers defense isn't even all that good, and I still don't want to start Andy Dalton. Kenny Pickett has shown promise. He's also shown bad traits. It's his rookie year. He's kind of being thrown to the wolves, metaphorically. So I'm not out on Kenny Pickett. I'm just out on him for fantasy football this year. I'm not saying that the guy's a bust or something. Next up, we got the Denver Broncos at the Le Titans. In this spot, we might see Tannehill. We might see Malik Willis. Another week of Malik Willis would be absolutely no bueno to watch. But I don't think we should necessarily just throw Malik Willis out. And like, I like to make fun of Malik Willis, right? The guy looked like deer in the headlights against the Kansas City Chiefs, right? But at the end of the day, it seems like Vrabel isn't necessarily creating a game plan for Malik Willis to succeed, and the weapons there are about as useful as a fucking broken condom. So at the end of the day, I think that Malik Willis isn't necessarily a bust yet. Like, you just can't say that after seeing a couple of games. I think he is a little bit better than what he's been showing. With that said, though, if it's Malik Willis or Tannehill, I don't give a damn. I'm not starting either of them. Russell Wilson is one of those fringe start guys. He did look pretty decent up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but based upon the whole season and not just looking at a one-game sample size, the guy has been absolutely abysmally awful. So at the end of the day, I'm not playing Russell Wilson in this spot. Next up, we got the Indianapolis Colts at the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the Raiders have been the best in the league at choking. The team always seems like they're knocking on the door at the end of the game. Knock, 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 knock. Let's win the game. And then the door fucking opens and they get gunned down. Okay, that's basically what it feels like. Or it feels like they're walking into a trap or something. Because Derek Carr always looks really good in the first half, and then the second half, everything collapses. I think Josh McDaniels' ass is about to get fired if they don't win this game. I mean, the Colts just fired Frank Reich. They hired Jeff fucking Saturday to be their head coach. They're starting Sam Ehlinger. They're initiating the full-on tank mode, in my opinion. And without saying they're tanking. Sam Ehlinger's a sit. If Derek Carr doesn't perform in this game, then man, oh man, Derek Carr's ass is grass. Next up, we got the Dallas Cowboys at the Green Bay Packers. Dak Prescott is a must-start quarterback in this spot. The Green Bay Packers defense is beaten. It's battered. It's completely fucking injured. They have injuries on offense as well. Dak Prescott has looked really solid ever since returning from injury, so you're going to start him in this spot. Aaron Rodgers is down roughly 1 million weapons. The problem is there's a couple of teams on bye this week, and still deep down in myself, while he shit the bed against the Lions, I still feel as though Aaron Rodgers has enough oomph, enough pizzazz to be start-worthy. Now, again, he's one of those bottom-of-the-barrel guys, not an ideal start. Some people have cut them off your team, and they're going with Mariota instead. I respect that, but Rodgers always plays pretty good against the Cowboys. Next game here, we got the Cardinals at the LA Rams. The king of Call of Duty, the short king, Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals, is listed as a start. Kyler Murray 0-2 since Modern Warfare 2 released. Now, obviously, the narrative is true, technically, but I don't think it's because of COD. I think it's just because Cliff Kingsbury is an absolute madman. He's a certified dunce. He's a certified fucking idiot. I think the Cardinals play decent in this spot. I think Kyler's decent enough for fantasy because of his rushing upside. He's currently dealing with a hammy injury. Hope he's good to go on Sunday. Matthew Stafford dealing with a concussion. I actually think, based upon these new concussion rules, it's not like normally it would be like, oh, if you're not cleared on Wednesday, like, oh, you're probably going to be fine by Sunday. But now, with these new rules, it feels like I don't think Stafford's going to end up playing. If he does, I'd start him because I feel like this could be a really high-scoring matchup. But he's also one of those bottom-of-the-barrel guys under, like, you know, there's the upper echelon. He's in the under echelon, I guess you would say. But I'm not even sure if he's going to play. Next up, we got Sunday Night Football, the LA Chargers at the San Francisco 49ers. Despite the fact that Justin Herbert, the pervert, has been a disappointment for fantasy football this season because of where we drafted him, he hasn't actually been all that bad. His weapons are severely limited by the fact that Keenan Allen is nowhere to be found, and the fact that Mike Williams is banged up. He still has Eckler, he still has Carter, DeAndre Carter, he still also has Joshua Palmer, so it's not like he's out there with no one. Gerald Everett as well, but obviously, it's not the peak Justin Herbert that we're used to. The matchup against the Niners defense is pretty bad, right? The Niners defense is incredibly stout, so I'm not banging the drum aggressively for Herbert, but more than likely you got to start him. Jimmy Guap, Jimmy Pornstar, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Guap, quarterback of the 49ers. This Chargers defense, it's every year. It's every year that we always talk ourselves, oh, look how good this Chargers defense looks. And I fall for it every year. Oh my God, Khalil Mack. Oh my, JC Jackson. My pussy's wet. And then out of nowhere, they're all fucking hurt. The defense is absolute dog shit. It happens every year. This is a great spot for Mr. Jimmy G. Spot. Final game here, Monday Night Football, Jalen Hurts. Shocker, you're going to start him. Looks like the MVP of the NFL right now. Looks like they're about to go. They already had a bye, so they're going to be 9-0 after this game. Now, I'm not going to say that's a lock, so I don't want to ruin this for you Eagles fans. Don't want to jinx things because these are always tough matchups. Now, the Commanders are nowhere near the same skill level as the Commanders. The Commanders and the Eagles are nowhere near each other. They're not even the same fucking stratosphere. But at the end of the day, they're still the same division, and division games are always tough, especially primetime division games. I like Heineke, the player. I think he's interesting to watch, but not against the Eagles. The Eagles matchup is too difficult. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. And if you have any questions about week number 10, please ask down below in the comment section or in the Discord pinned in the comment section and in the description. Again, make sure you guys sign up for DraftKings if you're brand new. Click that link in the video description. Bet $5 on any pre-game money line on any sport. Get $200 if your bet wins. Again, this offer won't last forever, and it helps me out a ton if you guys do check that out. So I love you guys all. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy!